Hello and welcome back to Kim's Cozy Corner. Today we are going to do a GreenStalk update. I want to show you how my GreenStalks are doing throughout my garden as well as the garden next door, which I take care of. So let's just get started on how the GreenStalks are doing. In this space here, these are my patio GreenStalks. I have a total of 4 GreenStalks in this space here. Before I get into too much detail, if you don't know what a GreenStalk is, it is a vertical planting system. You're growing up versus out in just under a 2 by 2 foot space. I have a video called All Things GreenStalk. You can learn all kinds of information about GreenStalks in that video, as well as a wealth of GreenStalk information in a GreenStalk playlist on my channel. So check out my GreenStalk videos and you can learn a ton of information prior to purchasing one. And if you're interested in purchasing a GreenStalk, if you follow my link in the description and you go to the GreenStalk website through my link, then you can get a discount off of your very first purchase of $75 or more. But before you spend that kind of money, you want to make sure you know what you're getting into. So please check out some of the other videos because there's a ton of information in there. But this video is just to give you an update so you can see how all of the GreenStalks are doing in this year's garden. I have a total of 11 GreenStalks. And yes, I did say 11 GreenStalks of different things in them with different size containers and different number of layers, but I'm going to go over how each and every one of those are doing. So this is my patio GreenStalk area. I try to keep these plants close to the house so I don't have to go far into the garden to harvest. This GreenStalk here is primarily lettuce, and some of this lettuce was actually started indoors in my indoor grow space, and I brought them out and I've continued to harvest out here. And once one of the plants have spent its life, I'll remove it and I'll put another one in. But it's full of many different kinds of lettuce. And I'm going to be honest with you, I call it garden art because is this not beautiful or what? The red lettuces and then the browns and the greens just all mixed in here beautifully together. Now in this GreenStalk, I also have some carrots. In the top layer, there's about 4 different pockets with carrots up high. I do have some carrots down low. I will bring you in close to see all 4 of these shortly. And then I also have down low here some bok choy. I love bok choy. Ooh. Bok choy doesn't grow very well in the heat. It's a cool weather crop, so I got to figure out how to keep getting more and more bok choy, which is one of my favorite types of brassicas. So I'll bring you in close, but you'll see I have some empty pockets where I've harvested the lettuce, but I haven't reseeded it yet because I'm trying to stagger the harvest. I have a lot of lettuce coming in at the same time and I can't eat it that fast, so I don't want to waste my seeds. So I'm slowly going to start introducing more lettuce into this GreenStalk later. But this is just so gorgeous. I have 5 tiers in this particular GreenStalk, and there's 6 pockets on a tier. So I have 30 plants growing in this space here. So let's just look next door to me here. I've actually harvested this GreenStalk already. So there are 5 layers in this GreenStalk as well. And in here, I have mustard greens. I have curly kale. I have mustard greens again. And then I have dinosaur kale. And then in the very bottom, I have more bok choy. I got to get all my bok choy in while I can before it gets too hot for it. But that's all this tower has in it. Oh, I'm sorry. And I have 1 pocket of onion. I've never grown onion in my GreenStalk before. I know you can grow it, so I figured I'll take 1 pocket and I'll do some experimenting. So I'm growing 2 bulbing type onion in 1 pocket. But I've harvested this about 3 days ago, maybe 4 days ago. I gave it a good liquid fertilizer 2 days ago. and I'm just keeping watering it, and then I'm starting to get new leaves put on here. And so I will be able to harvest from this green stalk at least 2 or 3 more times before I'll need to pull these out and put something else in it. In this green stalk here, and the top, I call this one my herb green stalk, but that's not all that's in this one. In the top 2 tiers, I have a couple micro dwarf tomatoes, and I have strawberries in the top 2 tiers. And so the tomatoes and the strawberries, I have them here on the patio. So when my young girls are out playing, they can enjoy some strawberries and some tomatoes while they're playing if they want to snack on them. So that's why I have those in the top 2 tiers. Everything else going down, I have a spider crawling on me is what I have. But everything else in here is some type of herb. So I have flat leaf parsley. I have curly parsley in here. I have marjoram. I have rosemary. I have thyme. I have sage. But all of my herbs are down below. And very soon I'm going to start harvesting those, drying those. I want to dehydrate those so that I can use them in my kitchen throughout the season as well as throughout the winter months. I try not to buy any herbs from the grocery store anymore, so I'm trying to harvest a year's supply of all of these type things that I need for my kitchen. And so, do I have a whole bunch of pockets of it? I don't. I harvested so much sage last year. I know I have at least 2 quart jars of nothing but dried sage. And I don't use sage that often, so I don't need that much sage. Same thing with the oregano. I have a ton of oregano, but I wanted to make sure I had some fresh for fresh cooking and fresh eating, as well as adding to the supply that I've already started. In this last green stalk here, in the very top, I have carrots, and only carrots in the very top. And then I have 4 other layers. 3 of the layers are nothing but collard greens. So I like the Morris heading collard greens, not the Georgia collards. They're too meaty, too leathery, too thick. I like Morris heading collard greens. And so I have 3 tiers of that. So that's 18 pockets, and each pocket has anywhere from 2 to 3 plants, except for a couple of them. And then in the very bottom, I just planted in here some more pak choi. So I already had starts ready to go in here. The pak choi that I had in here went to seed. They were flowering. They weren't producing heads anymore. I pulled all of those out, and I added new pak choi to the pockets. Let me bring you in close so you can see up close some of the plants in this space. You can see where I harvested this one, and I cut it super low because I want to pull it out of the pocket versus it being a cut and come again type. This one here is poking up the middle, which means that it's going to seed or is bolting. This one will need to come out as well. But honestly, I've been harvesting off of that one probably since February. So it's been a while. This pocket's already empty. This pocket's empty. So you can see some things are ready to be harvested. Some things are ready to be cut out, and it's ready for me to put some new things in other pockets. This one here was all mustard greens and curly kale and dinosaur kale. And I know it doesn't look like much, but I just harvested this clean. There was hardly nothing left but stems, and you can see the leaves are coming back on these. The herb tower, just trying to give you a quick up close look. Parsley is my new favorite herb, so I made sure I had plenty of that because I ran out of parsley this past winter. And then the last one is over here. Let's move to the next GreenStalk area. In this space here, we're back to the main garden area. And these GreenStalks all have the deep original pockets, so they're 10 inches deep. So for these types of GreenStalks, I can put larger types of vegetables in them. And I just want to show you how they're doing. This first green stalk here has nothing but green beans in it. And the green beans in here, some of them I transplanted, and some of these I started from seeds. So these top 2 tiers were 100% started from seeds. And you can see they've already caught up almost with the bottom 2 tiers, which I started from transplants. And they're looking pretty good. Some of these purple beans have some nice blooms that are starting to come on there. They're budding up nicely. And then there's some pockets where I didn't get good germination, where I only have a couple plants in them. So I'll add a few more seeds to these pockets to make sure the pockets are full. But I think this one's coming along nicely, and we should definitely have green beans on them sometime in the next month or so. The one just to the side here, again, all larger pockets, and this green stalk has only sweet peppers in it. All different varieties, but all sweet peppers. I have bell peppers. I have horn-shaped peppers in here. I have some shishitos, which isn't necessarily a sweet pepper, but it's not a hot pepper either. I have jalapenos in here, so they have the taste and texture of a jalapeno, but it doesn't have the heat of a jalapeno. I have bell peppers. I have thunderbolt. I have name it, I have it. I have Joe Parker in here. I have red yummies, yellow yummies, lots and lots of sweet peppers in this one. And let's move over to the other green stalk. In this last set of green stalks here, so this is the third one in this row here, I'm growing just tomatoes. Again, these are 10-inch pockets, and in the 10-inch pockets, you can grow tomatoes. All of my tomatoes are dwarf tomatoes, which means they only get 3 to 4 feet tall. They're very similar to determinate tomatoes. Determinate tomatoes are usually your shorter, bushier tomatoes. Determinate tomatoes typically, though, puts all the fruit on at one time. So you have a big harvest coming in at one time, and then you have 1 or 2 here or there after that. But in here, I have a mixture of determinate tomatoes as well as semi-determinate tomatoes. So these are like your typical, for example, your heirlooms, like a big beef type tomato that typically grows on a vine that's indeterminate, that keeps growing and growing and growing. But I'm getting the same type of tomato on a dwarf plant. At least that's the concept. So we will see how these dwarf tomatoes do. So they're not micro dwarfs. So they get bigger than the 8 inches and the 12 inches, but they should max out no more than 3 to 4 feet. They already have very thick stems. They're healthy, and they're already starting to put on some little blooms. So hopefully we'll get to see how these turn out very shortly. And as far as the different types, there are 24 plants in here, and I probably have about 15 different varieties in here. So we will get to see how they're all doing. So here are all of those beans. I have purple beans and gold rush beans in this planter here. So nothing green. There'll only be gold and purple in this bean planter. Some of these peppers are already trying to put some little buds on them. Nice and deep green. I try to do a liquid fertilizer at a minimum once every 10 to 14 days in all of my green stalks. Because so much water runs through them, you have to be careful and make sure that you don't lose all of your nutrition being washed out the bottom. So a liquid fertilizer every 10 to 14 days is always good with, honestly, any container gardening. But you want that fertilizer to be low and slow. So you are looking for a fertilizer with an NP and K of very low single-digit numbers if you're going to be fertilizing that often. Look at how thick some of these stems are. Look at that. It's just healthy and full. Just beautiful. All right, let's move to the next green stalk. I tell you, this green stalk here is probably one of my most favorite green stalks every year, not just this year, but every year. This is my strawberry tower. In my strawberry tower, I have 7 tiers, and there's 6 in a tier. In each tier has 6 pockets, so that's 42 spots for a plant.
I grow
ever-bearing strawberries. I have 2 types of strawberry plant in almost every pocket. There are 2 types of strawberry plants. There are June-bearing and ever-bearing. June-bearing strawberries put a massive amount of fruit on all around typically the month of June, maybe July, but it puts a heavy amount on all at once, and then they kind of just end for the season, right? After they put all of them on so heavy, then you might get one here, one there for the rest of the season, but they put all of their energy into one huge harvest. Everbearing give you smaller harvests, but over a longer time frame. And all of my strawberries are everbearing. So every day I walk out here, I am already picking more than a dozen every day. And I have strawberries throughout my garden, but I have the tower and other spots as well. But everywhere where you see one of these nice white pretty flowers will eventually be a fruit. And this thing is covered in flowers, but it will give me fruit all summer long. It's going to give me fruit in June. It's going to give me fruit in July. It's going to give me fruit in August, all the way up until the temperatures get a little cold. Now, it might not set blooms when it's super, super hot in the summer at 100 degrees, which we don't have many 100-degree days in Southwest Ohio. Actually, we rarely have a 100-degree day, but we do have some above 90-degree days. And anytime you get above 90 degrees, it's hard for any of your vegetables to set fruit, or to set blooms, I should say. So you'll see blooms falling off and that kind of stuff. But as soon as that temperature comes back down, blooms will start developing again, fruit will continue to mature. So this is my absolute favorite tower in the garden. And it's just all strawberries. So let me bring you in close so you can see it. Look how pretty that is. And I absolutely fertilize this one every 10 to 14 days as well. Let's move over to the next green stalk. You guys are getting to see the real deal in my garden here, so just ignore some of the garden cleanup that needs to happen. In this particular green stalk here, this is still another 4-tier tower. These are also deep pockets. So this is the original green stalk with 10-inch pockets. And in this one, I have a variety of things growing. In the very top, all I have is basil, just basil. All 6 of these pockets are basil. So I have transplants, and then I started some from seeds as well. In this next tier, oh, I just touched the basil. It smells so good. And the little seeds are starting to raise their little heads from the ground. So I'll bring you in close to see it in just a minute. The second layer down is all cilantro. All cilantro in this next layer here. I make a mean salsa. And so I make a salsa verde, and I like to put fresh cilantro with my tomatillos and my onion from the garden and my jalapenos from the garden. So everything comes from the garden when I make that fresh salsa that I can, so I can have a year's supply of it. But all of these are just cilantro. And in the bottom 2 tiers, I have a variety of things. I have in there some red peppers, short red peppers that I got from a seed share from Guten Gardening. And I have also in this pocket, I have some yellow crookneck squash. I also have some green summer squash. It's like shaped like a ball, but has the texture and consistency like a zucchini. And so, but it's round, like, you know, about a softball size, and it's green. And honestly, I like it better than zucchini. It's better than green zucchini because it's not full of water. And I usually just take that green round zucchini or green summer squash, cut it up, dip it in a little ranch dressing, and delicious, delicious. And then in the very bottom, I have more of those short red bell peppers from the seed share. And I also have 4 heirloom tomatoes that I received from the seed share. Now, I don't know the variety. I don't know if they're determinate. I don't know if they're indeterminate, but I put them on the bottom of this particular tower here. So if they are indeterminate, it'll give me a little space to work with the vine as I try to trellis it up in this GreenStalk. But I wanted to put all of the seed share items together so I can quickly give updates on how my gluten gardening seeds are doing. Let me bring you in close so you can see this GreenStalk. So in the top here, hopefully you can see it, but the basil is waking up. Look at that. Look at all that basil in there. And there's some basil. And honestly, when I transplanted this basil in here, whew, it didn't look too good. I didn't think it was going to make it. I waited so long to transplant it that it didn't look well at all. And then down in the bottom here, of how things are doing down low. In this GreenStalk here, I actually purchased 2 GreenStalks after I said I wasn't buying anymore. So this is the absolute last GreenStalk that I'm buying this year. So this is GreenStalk number 11 is what I like to call it. And in this GreenStalk is growing on my she shed's patio. And in the GreenStalk, I have more collards growing in the top 2 tiers here. And as you go down the tiers, there are different items. Now this GreenStalk is set up very differently because I have leaf planters. So I have the shorter pockets, because the leaf planters have the shorter pockets, and then I have the bigger 10-inch pockets as well. So I have a mixture. I always put my bigger pockets on the bottom and my shorter pockets on the top. And the reason why I like to mix and match, I'm short, and I don't want a GreenStalk where I can't get to the stuff in the top pocket. So that's why I have shorter GreenStalks and mix them up slightly different. But in the top 2, like I said, there's collard greens that I started from seeds. And as we move down the GreenStalk, this next layer here is a mixture of items though. So in here I have some cabbage, and I typically don't grow cabbage in my GreenStalk, but I put a couple in here because I had so much cabbage to transplant. I also have in here some melons. I have melons in here, as well as some short vining cucumbers in the GreenStalk on this next tier here. And they are doing so well. And all of these were from transplants. So I transplanted everything from the 3rd, 4th, and 5th tiers down. Because I have vining squash and vining melons, I've added some trellis support for those. And if it gets longer than this trellis, I added another one just below it so that I can make sure I'm supporting those vines. In the next to the bottom tier, I have all peppers. And most of these, I believe, are sweet peppers. Well, I take it back. I have an Anaheim chili in there as well, and a treasure, which I think is a mild pepper. I got some poblanos in there. So it's a mixture of medium heat and sweet peppers. And I planted this super late. All of the pepper plants, honestly, had been in their pockets for so long. They were starting to get a little root bound. I stuck them in here and they've gotten green and full and luscious. I cut the tops out of all of the peppers that you see in my garden everywhere so that they can bush out versus growing straight up. But if they decide to grow straight up, I have some type of staking method for it. And in the very, very bottom, I have more of those dwarf tomato plants. And I have, I don't know, it might be 6 different varieties because it was whatever was left over from the over 200 tomato plants that I started indoors and brought outdoors for transplanting. I'm losing sun, so hopefully you can see this. So let's start with the top 2. You can see in there that the collard greens are starting to get true leaves. The first leaves are not true leaves, but they're starting to come in nicely. Below there, this is where I have vining items. There's some of the melons, there's the cabbage, some of the cucumbers, more melons, and one more cabbage on that row there. The next row are the peppers that I was telling you about. And the bottom, of course, are the tomato plants I was telling you about. And they're thick and full and healthy as well. Now, I'm definitely in the shade on this one, so hopefully you can see me well enough on this one. But this is the GreenStalk that I purchased for my neighbors. My neighbors are such amazing, wonderful people. They let me set up all of the beds in their garden for my personal use. And it's not like I need additional space. I have a pretty nice sized garden, but there's always room for more vegetables. So I set this particular area up for my neighbors. And so I try to grow items in here I think that they would appreciate and that they could get joy from as well. And anything extra I take back to my house. So I purchased a GreenStalk because every garden needs a GreenStalk. You need a GreenStalk in every garden. And there wasn't one in their space. So I thought we needed to add a GreenStalk to the entrance of their garden. And so I sit down with them and I ask them, what do you want to grow? It's interesting because right before I started making this video, my neighbor came out with a plate and he picked his dinner and took it back inside to make a wonderful salad to go with his dinner. So he brought the plate all the way to the GreenStalk, picked out what he wanted and took it back inside. How much better can it get? So in the GreenStalk, they decided that they wanted some radishes and some carrots in the top. So in the very top, there are radish, every other pocket, and then carrots in the pockets in between. And then they have a whole tier of nothing but micro dwarf tomatoes. Micro dwarf tomatoes. We haven't really spent a lot of time as I've been sharing the GreenStalks, but micro dwarf tomatoes only get between like 9 and 12 inches, if that tall. So they're very compact plants. And all of these are going to put on cherry style tomatoes, so not big tomatoes. I call them snacking tomatoes. And so he has a whole tier with nothing but micro dwarfs. And he's got some blooms coming on here. Not long after, there will be tomatoes. And then the next couple of tiers, so there's the next, 2, 3 tiers, are a mixture of herbs and different types of lettuce. And so I just asked, what kind of lettuce do you like to eat? They told me, I like iceberg heading lettuce. So I made sure I put some of that in here. They said that they like romaine lettuce. So I made sure I put some romaine lettuce in here. And so I tried to put what they said they liked in here. And there's also some art. There's some beautiful red. This is a type of a looser romaine type lettuce, this red one here. And this is one of the ones he just harvested. So he picked off a few leaves off of the front of the stem so it can continue to produce. And this lettuce is still just growing away. There's just a variety of things. Now there are also some herbs on here. So we've added some basil, and the basil we brought over here, honestly, it was on life support as well. It did well though. It came out of the intensive care unit and is now out the hospital and doing well. We have some thyme here. What else did we put in here? Some marjoram in here. And there's some oregano in here as well. And I've already talked about the different types of lettuce, but they love spinach. Now, I've had a hard time trying to transplant spinach. So the only way I've been able to grow spinach is from seeds. So we put the seeds in the pocket. The spinach has come up, and I tell you what, it's coming up so nice and full. I may have put too much in there. We may have to thin this out, but it's looking beautiful. And in the very bottom tier, very bottom tier, I had some additional broccoli transplants and some cauliflower transplants. And again, I haven't done a lot of growing of broccoli and cauliflower in my GreenStalk. So in this particular GreenStalk, we have one original tier on the bottom, and you can grow brassicas in the original size tier. And all of the other tiers are leaf tiers. So you want your shorter, leafier type vegetables in those. But since he had the one original tier in the bottom, I was able to give them 6 brassica plants. So he has 3 cauliflowers and he has 3 broccoli growing in here. And they are gorgeous. I mean, they're just beautiful. Look how full. I believe this is cauliflower because I planted it first. The broccoli hadn't hardened off yet from the house, so I needed to give it a little more time to harden off before I put it in the planter. But there's the broccoli, and it's every other pocket. Look at all of the different colors, the different shapes and textures growing in this GreenStalk. And this GreenStalk, I believe, has only been set up for 3 weeks. And he's harvesting lettuce off of this GreenStalk. It's just absolutely gorgeous. This one here is so beautiful. What is this, a little gem? Yep, that's a little gem. A little gem in my mind is somewhere between a romaine and a butter crunch type lettuce, but it's gorgeous. Gorgeous. There's the marjoram. He did have one plant that went to seed, or it bolted on him. And so we pulled it out and we added in another transplant, and that was just a couple of days ago, and it's already doing amazing. There's his micro dwarf tomatoes. They're not going to get much taller than what they are. And then up here, these are radishes and carrots. So this is where we're going to end, friends. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Share the video with as many of your family and friends as possible so that they can understand how a GreenStalk looks, how it works, and what it could do for them. And subscribe to the channel. I have some additional videos here that I believe you will enjoy as well. Please come back, visit with me again real soon. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye-bye.